the apocalypse is coming. My neighbor is stocking up on water and food, turning his villa into a steel fortress. And I'm stocking up on cat food, cat litter, and cosmetics. The rich second generation heir from my neighbor's house urgently rang my doorbell. Holding my cat, yawned and went downstairs, opened the door, and saw the panicked man in front of me. Sang sang. The man glanced at me and looked like he'd lost his mind. It was then I remembered. I seemed to have come downstairs wearing a camisole nightgown. I recognized this man. He was the rich second generation heir living in the big villa next door to me. "What's up?" I asked him. The man stammered for a long time, finally getting his words straight. Sang sang. "You definitely won't believe it. I've been reborn. In a month, Z country will break out with a zombie virus, and the entire country will fall." Sang sang. "Hurry up and prepare. Go stock up on supplies." I looked up and looked at him seriously. To be honest, the zombie outbreak didn't surprise me too much, but the rebirth part was quite appealing to me. I smiled. "I believe you. By the way, what's your name?" His face turned red again, and he stammered. "My name is Lujo. I'm 21 years old, a third-year student at a university, and I live next door to you." Human children blush easily. I smiled and asked again, "What do you plan to do?" He mustered up his courage and said, "With the arrival of zombies, Country Z will be very dangerous in a month. I plan to spend money to turn my house into a combat fortress. Our two families are neighbors, and I want to ask if you want to build an underground tunnel. If zombies attack your house, you can come to my house through the tunnel, spend money to build a combat fortress, and then dig a tunnel to my house." Even though I'm not human myself, I took a second look at him. "Young man, your male hormones are really working overtime." I smiled calmly and asked, "Why do you think zombies will attack my house?" Lujo looked at me, as if ready to die, and said, "In my previous life, after the zombies broke into our community, they attacked your house." Sang sang. "I've always regretted not saving you in my previous life. This time, I have the chance, and I must save you." I chuckled softly. "All right then, young Master Lu. Once you've finished fortifying your house, dig a tunnel to my place." His eyes lit up, and he quickly nodded. "Okay." Sang sang. "Thank you for your trust. Zombies are dirty, ugly, low-level creatures. Our zombie king despises and is disgusted by the existence of such creatures. We like to gnaw on fresh beef, sleep on clean sheets, bask in the warm sun, and hail rideshares using ubiquitous QR codes. We don't like dealing with low-level zombies. I don't really believe that the zombie apocalypse predicted by Lujo was caused by the zombie king. I'm more inclined to believe that humans did it themselves. But none of that is my business." But Lujo saying to stock up did remind me. After the zombie virus breaks out, society will be paralyzed. Having enjoyed this comfortable life enough, I'll definitely stock up too. Fortunately, there's still a month to go, so shopping isn't that hard. I'm lying lazily on my genuine leather red sofa. Speaking of which, humans are quite good at enjoying life. Online shopping every day is enough to make me feel happy. Receiving the goods lets me feel happy a second time. Scrolling through my phone, I first ordered a large quantity of cat litter, cat food, and freeze-dried cat food for my cat. After ordering several truckloads of cat food, cat litter, and freeze-dried cat food, I casually bought a bunch of toilet paper, toothbrushes, towels, and shampoo. I like pretty clothes. It would be bad if I couldn't maintain my beauty during the zombie period. So I bought piles of clothes and cosmetics. My cat ran to my feet and licked my little feet with painted toenails. I took a look, right? I still need to stock up on some nail polish. I bought more than a dozen large refrigerators, several trucks of beef to freeze in the refrigerators, and 1,000 bottles of my favorite red wine to store in the cellar. My phone is running a bit slow, and I suddenly remembered that phones can break during a zombie apocalypse. So I ordered 100 more phones and dozens of laptops. I accidentally browsed to the seed page, and I ordered a whole bunch of fruit, vegetable, and flower seeds to prevent my big orange cat from getting sick. I directly ordered a batch of medicines for humans and pets online. After placing the order, I found professionals online to install solar and wind power for my house. When I opened the door to welcome the masters installing the small power station, I looked back at the villa next door. Lu Zhou's house had already started to be surrounded by steel walls, and was installing an electric fence. This massive project really blinded my eyes. I calmly ordered a few more fuel generators, and crank generators, and other types of generators, as well as gasoline. Finally, after walking around my 3,000 square meter villa, while petting my big orange cat, I said, "Big Orange, how about I turn half of this place into an independent ecosystem? That way, even if the water source outside is polluted, or the food is polluted, you can still have cat grass to eat, water to drink, and cat's tail grass to play with. How about it?" Big Orange purred and meowed affectionately in my arms. Without delay, I contracted the project to a professional team that manufactures ecosystems. My requirement was to create a fully enclosed, independent ecosystem in 1,500 square meters of this area, without relying on external water sources or external air. I paid them a lot of money and asked them to finish it within half a month. Otherwise, they would have to pay a huge penalty for breach of contract. The ecosystem team readily agreed and then worked day and night, rushing to get it done. 2 days later, the supplies gradually arrived. Lu Zhou from next door came to my house. Seeing the supplies piled up full in my house, he said to me, "Sang, I think you still need to reinforce the walls. Those zombies are fierce and can climb over to bite people." I nodded. Lu Zhou continued, "Also, it's not okay if you don't stock up on water. When the air and water get polluted, you won't be able to drink the outside water. You should at least stock up enough water for 2 rooms. I continued to nod. Seeing that he had said enough, Lu Zhou returned to his own house to supervise. I looked at the outside of his house. Truckloads of water and bags of rice were being transported inside. All the windows were sealed shut, and countless layers of air filters were placed in all the places that could let air through. The entire house was wrapped in copper, making it look like a tank. It looked so safe. I withdrew my gaze and, seeing a truck of trees arriving, immediately greeted them with a smile. "Help me plant this batch of trees outside the yard, this batch in the middle, and this batch inside." The driver got out and said to me with a smile, "Boss, are you landscaping the yard? Your yard is at least 3 mu, and planting all of them will destroy a lot of the original things." I helped the workers move the trees and said with a smile, "Master, do you know what's most important? Ecology is the most important. From the outside to the inside." I planted 3 rings of trees with extremely strong filtration capabilities. The innermost ring was planted with my favorite fruits. Then I also had the workers create a wetland and planted some plants that purify the air and soil in it. I even built a few sheds to raise some poultry and rabbits. Raising chickens, ducks, and rabbits outside my house was probably the most wrong impulsive decision I've made. No other reason. Their clucking and quacking sounds are really annoying, really not fitting for me, a beautiful woman of noble temperament. But my big orange cat was very happy, occasionally running to the chicken coop to play with the chickens. Whatever, let them make a fuss. I don't care. Half a month later, the power station was completed, the trees were planted, and the ecosystem in the room was almost done. I immediately felt the air was much better, and I felt a sense of security in my life. Lu Zhou came to my house again. I was frying steak when he arrived. Lu Zhou expressed his condemnation of my house for not having a steel fence or electric wires. I still paid no attention, but in the end, I kindly reminded this young man brimming with male hormones, "Young Master Lu, I think you can stock up on more beef. What time is it? We're in a real crisis, and you're still thinking about eating." I glanced at the steak in the pan and said unhurriedly, "Zombies prefer steak to human flesh. Sometimes a piece of steak can save your life." As I spoke, I put the steak I had fried onto a plate. Lu Zhou asked me, "How do you know that?" I looked at him and said with a smile, "It's written in books." He obviously didn't believe me. I don't care if he believes it or not. After all, I bought all the steaks within 10 miles. I took my cat out for a drive. After the drive, I clearly smelled a different scent in the house. It wasn't until I saw a big hole in the living room that I realized Lu Zhou had dug a tunnel to my house after all. I understand that this rich second-generation guy is thinking about champagne, fine wine, and beautiful women in his arms. My cat was meowing loudly in my arms. After I put it down, The Jew immediately rushed towards the ecological zone. I followed, and just saw a man and a woman. The man is Lu Zhou, and the woman seems to be Lu Zhou's sister, named Lu Yao, and at this moment, Lu Yao was using chemicals to wash her hands in the small river of my ecological zone. Brother, so nice here, with an ecosystem. We won't be afraid even if the outside gets polluted. Staring at the hand sanitizer flowing into my ecosystem, I was furious, and my pupils in my colored contacts turned vertical. The Jew kept meowing. When Lu Zhou looked back at me, he had a smile on his face. Sang sang, you've made this place so nice. Get out. I stared at the small river, as if staring at hand sanitizer. Sang sang, what's wrong? Lu Zhou walked over. Our two families are connected now. If you're in danger, you can come to my house. If our family needs fresh fruits and vegetables, we can come to yours. Isn't that great? I suppressed the urge to throw them out directly and politely said again, get out. If you want me out, I'll go. Who cares? Lu Yao said angrily. What kind of person is he, putting on such airs, as if nobody else has money? Brother, when we get back, we'll build an ecosystem too. Lu Zhou said anxiously. Yeah, we came uninvited. It was rude of us. I waited coldly for them to leave, then took a spoon and a bucket, took off my shoes and socks, and went down into the river myself. Anything that pollutes my ecosystem, I'll scoop out as much as I can. Then, I went out of the room, found one big rock after another, and pushed them into the room like a dung beetle, blocking the hole that Lu Zhou had dug. Have I ever said that I quite like humans? If I have, I apologize. Some humans, I really don't like. Lu Zhou came to apologize several times, but I didn't see him. Later, he came less often, and I had much more peace. The supplies in the room became more and more abundant, filling up several rooms. I sat in front of the sofa playing my Switch, pressing buttons randomly, and I was having a great time. I looked at the calendar. It seemed to be the day of the zombie outbreak that Lu Zhou had predicted. I turned on the TV, and sure enough, violent news had already started playing on the TV. Man, fighting incidents have occurred on the main street of City A's downtown area, causing public panic. Armed forces have come out to stop the violent acts. Is this rabies? The news showed scenes of people panicking, running away, stocking up on groceries, and fighting over groceries. I turned off the TV, got up, and looked at the rain outside. The foul, smelling rain was tinged with blood. I didn't like it. Lu Zhou rushed to my door and knocked. I opened the door, and he eagerly asked if I had seen the news, then excitedly said, Sang sang, you saw it. I'm really reborn. I saw it. I nodded. The human in front of me is really a bit crazy. He probably doesn't know that an ordinary him is still a tasty piece of meat to me, but a reborn him would be exquisite meat worth tens of times more. He doesn't know that I'm actually a zombie king. This world hasn't just experienced one zombie crisis. I was born as the zombie king during the first zombie crisis. In other words, I am the ancestor, the noble of nobles among zombies. Lu Zhou said, don't be afraid. Lock your doors and windows tightly at home and hide. If it gets really dangerous, I'll definitely find a way to save you. I nodded and said okay. Before long, the zombie tide arrived. The villas near me were infected, and the residents turned into walking dead. The fortress in Lu Zhou's house next door proved effective, and the zombies couldn't break in. I guess he and his sister are living quite happily. I'm different. Sun Wukong said that being inside a circle is safe, so I drew a circle outside my large yard. The disgusting little zombies dare not come in. Big Orange is a cat that's been with me for a few years. It's very smart and knows there's trouble outside, so it doesn't go out. I opened the cat food and freeze, dried cat treats for Big Orange and squatted down to listen to it making pig-like noises as it ate. The rain finally stopped. The red rain polluted the water and air. I stood by the window, watching the leaves in the yard sway. On TV, the news had already urged everyone to stay home and not go out. I looked at the fortress next door, pondering a question. How long can stagnant water be stored? Bottled water has a shelf life of only 3 months. So what will they do after 3 months? Whatever, this really doesn't concern me. I heard Big Orange meowing and scratching at the door. No choice. I opened the door for it. It rushed out, then meowed at the door. I went out with a black umbrella. I found my cat and squatted beside it. Big Orange found something. It was a dog that was barely hanging on to life. I uncovered the dirt and saw this extremely weak border collie. I looked at Big Orange and said, "Big Orange, you're the only cat we have, and you already have enough fur. I don't want another dog. Meow. I don't like bringing things home, especially dogs. Meow." Okay. Big Orange is my family, and I respect its wishes. I brought the dog to the front door and used the faucet on it, rinsing off most of the dirt. Then I took it back inside and gave it a bath with body wash. Then I fed it the animal medicine I had stocked up for Big Orange. Big Orange watched the dog lying on the ground with great excitement, occasionally nudging it with the tip of its nose. The dog howled a few times. I couldn't understand dog language, but I felt it was thanking me. Damn it, a cat and a dog. I don't want to do so much housework. I feel like I'm missing a poop scooper. 3 months passed, and the streets were already full of wandering zombies. I don't know when this zombie crisis will pass, or if it might never pass. I leaned on the sofa petting the cat, and the dog lay at my feet, being very well behaved. My hearing is good. I heard the Lou siblings next door talking. "Brother, the water tastes different. I found a worm in this bucket of water." I heard Lu Yao pouring out the water. I stopped petting the cat. Water with worms is still better than the water outside, isn't it? Yao Yao. Why did you pour out the water? Could still be drunk after some treatment. Brother, the rice is also infested with worms. I checked the production date of the instant noodles we bought, and they'll expire in a few days. Why did you only buy products close to expiration? This, I didn't notice. The compressed biscuits only have a 12-month shelf life. What will we do after 12 months? We've been eating cured meat for a long time. Brother, I haven't eaten vegetables or fresh meat for a long time. I'll get scurvy. So, you idiot. Ecology is the most important thing. Brother, it was the voice of the pampered girl next door again. We're running out of salt. Why didn't we stock up on salt? What will we do when the salt runs out? As she spoke, Lu Yao started crying. No sanitary pads, no cola, no milk tea. I can't take it anymore. I'm going crazy. We can't go out. Lu Zhou pulled her back. Absolutely not. After a bit of pulling and struggling, Lu Yao calmed down and said to Lu Zhou, "Brother, our neighbor next door, she seems to be growing vegetables indoors. She has supplies. She has so many supplies." With a bit of force from my hand, Deju let out a yelp and jumped up. Good heavens. The 2 pieces of delicious meat next door are eyeing my household's ecosystem. Deju. Tsongming, get up. Tsongming is the name I gave to that border collie. It really likes this name. Tsongming, now healthy, has a strong desire to perform. As soon as I call it, it flashes its characteristic border collie smile, circles around, and then squats in front of me. Deju looked proud, seeming a bit too lazy to bother with me. I scooped Deju up and held it in my arms. You chose to let me save it, so it eats your cat food and drinks your water. You can't be angry with me about it. Meow. Deju nuzzled me, wearing a bright red dress. I went out with my cat and my dog. As I walked onto the main road, the dirty zombies, as if smelling a terrible odor, all kept their distance from me. Tsongming, who hadn't been out for months, was particularly excited. It lowered its head and ate something dirty off the ground. I frowned and said directly, "Either spit it out, or get lost." Tsongming immediately spat out what was in his mouth. Not long after, I finally found that team searching for food outside. 3 months after the zombie crisis, many small groups had already been formed by civilians for self-rescue, and the one in front of me was one of them. This team had 12 people, and they had tied up a young man about 20 years old. Not sure what for, but that's none of my business. I left a note, which stated the location of Lu Zhou's house and added 3 words. Has supplies. Tsongming carried the note over, and I knew they saw it. After returning home, I started listening to the movements outside. This team is really something. With just a piece of fresh meat and a few bundles of fresh vegetables, they successfully entered the steel fortress next door. Hearing that Lu Zhou and Lu Dan were under control, I closed my eyes and gently rocked my first-class cabin sofa. Boss, they really have a lot of supplies, a lot of clean water, rice, instant noodles, compressed biscuits. Boss, Lu Zhou was terrified. I'll give it to you. We can share half our supplies with you. Please, please let us go. Let you go. We can only let one person go. Young man, who do you choose? Lu Yao yelled. No, no, no. I also know someone who has supplies. I'll tell you, if you let me go. Okay. I gently tapped my hand on the sofa, and I heard the other party say, okay, as long as you tell us where the supplies are, we will let you live. Lu Yao shouted. Next door. Sang sang next door. Her family has supplies. Clean ones. All clean and uncontaminated. My hand, which had been tapping the sofa, stopped. I heard the person next to their leader say a few words in a low voice, and the leader of that team seemed to have taken out a gun. Little girl. The big idiot next door stockpiled trees and cat litter and cat food. You dare to lie to me? There was a bang. I picked my ears. This big idiot. After the group next door shot Lu Yao, they pushed Lu Zhou out of the fortress. Lu Zhou, who was pushed out of the fortress, quickly attracted the attention of the zombies, and eventually became one of them. As for that group of people, they greatly admired the fortress of the Lu siblings, and they occupied the nest and settled down. After new neighbors arrived next door, I had a brainwave and wondered if Lu Zhou would be reborn again. If he were reborn again, would he still build a steel fortress? Would he make his defenses a bit more low, key and hidden so as not to become a target? I thought about it and shook my head. The food and water he stockpiled would expire. His crisis was only a matter of time. Sooner or later, I heard a bit of movement again. It seemed like the tide. Up teenager next door was sick, but had no medicine. None of my business. I ran water for De Tsongming to brush his teeth and take a bath. When night fell, there was a commotion next door. I pulled open the curtains and, judging by the sound, the tide, up teenager must have escaped. I heard the dozen or so new neighbors next door chasing, then went out and heard the sound of zombies outside, and then smelled a very strong smell of blood. As soon as they got the fortress, these people all became food for zombies and turned into zombies. What a waste. Just as I was about to turn back to my room, I smelled the only living bound teenager, who entered the circle I had drawn. This person was very careful, and he didn't go deeper after entering the circle. He actually knows this place is safe. I was surprised. Meow. Woof woof. Big Smart was very excited, pulling on my skirt. Woof 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 woof. Alright, I'll go out and take a look. I went out again with a cat and a dog. As I approached the teenager, he suddenly sprang up. I pushed aside the leaves. My bright red dress should be quite scary in this dark night. Who are you? The teenager asked warily. I stared at the teenager in front of me. It was indeed the teenager who was tied up earlier. Recalling the teenager's actions, he should have known long ago that my place was safe. So after escaping, he led those dozen or so people into the zombie horde and then escaped. To my place. Should I praise you for being smart? I retorted. The teenager looked at me very warily, until my dog suddenly rushed over excitedly and pounced on the teenager. Oh, the teenager said excitedly. My dog was enthusiastically licking him. I was unhappy, and I said, its name is Big Smart. It's my dog. The young man had a name, Yenyi. I absolutely refuse to admit that Big Smart is Yenyi's dog. I also absolutely do not want Big Smart, whom I've raised for 3 months, to go with Yenyi. So in the end, I was the one who compromised. I agreed to let Yenyi into my villa and be the poop scooper in my villa. Yenyi is a 20-year-old young boy, a smart and clever kid. He took the initiative to take on the responsibility of scooping poop, calling it paying rent. The young, clean boy stood in front of me and asked me seriously, Miss, do we have salt? I admired him even more because he politely called me Miss. I replied, probably not. He continued to ask, then what will we eat? I opened a large refrigerator, pointed to the full shelves, and proudly said, we can eat steak. The steak packaging has seasoning, and the seasoning has salt. He pondered for a moment, then asked, do we have vegetables? I nodded and took him into my ecological zone. The moment he saw the ecological zone, I noticed his eyes filled with surprise until I pointed to the cat grass growing everywhere and told him, you can eat this. At this moment, I actually saw a hint of cracking in his expression. I turned my head in confusion, looking at the cat grass all over the floor. Cat grass. Humans should be able to eat it too. After Yenyi finished all the housework in the large house, he changed his clothes and went out. I'm not a landlord who likes to manage things, so I didn't bother to find out what he was doing, until he came back that night, his face full of excitement. I leaned in and saw the sprouted potatoes and sweet potatoes. They're not edible anymore since they've sprouted, I said. Yen Yi's clear eyes curved slightly. Miss, these aren't for eating. We can plant them. Looking at this big boy, my eyes widened slightly. Wow, he can even farm. Big Orange squatted on a high perch watching us, while Big Smart wagged his tail excitedly. I saw Yen Yi take out a small knife, carefully cut the potatoes and sweet potatoes, and let them dry, until Yen Yi left. I was still squatting there, watching the potatoes and sweet potatoes. The next day, Yen Yi got up early. Big Orange was the first to jump in front of Yen Yi. Big Smart was so engrossed in breakfast that he was a beat slower. As for me, I was lazily leaning against the doorframe, yawning and watching him with tears in my eyes. He picked up the potatoes and sweet potatoes that had been drying all day, and planted them in the ecological zone. The three of us, one corpse, one cat, and one dog, gathered around the pointed sprouts of the potatoes and sweet potatoes. I glanced at Big Orange and asked it, looking forward to it. Big Orange meowed. Big Orange and Big Smart both chose to relieve themselves near the potatoes and sweet potatoes. With the fertilizer, the potatoes and sweet potatoes grew rapidly. Yen Yi was about to go out again. This time, I spoke up and asked him, "Where are you going today?" He looked at me with his eyes curved. "Miss, we need more salt." I nodded and handed him the sliced beef. "Zombies like beef." He looked at me, puzzled. I glanced at my good steak magnanimously, feeling a bit of heartache. The smell of beef can lure them away. Use it sparingly. Yen Yi looked at me and nodded with a smile. He left cleanly and returned dusty, bringing back a box of salt. I smiled lazily and saw him pull out a small thing from the side. I looked over curiously, only to hear him smiling at me and saying, "Miss, this music box is for you." I looked at him in surprise, then at the music box. I've lived so many years. I recognized this little thing. I wound up the music box, and it started playing a crisp melody while dancing. My heartstrings were strangely plucked. There weren't many programs left on human television. But interestingly, one news channel was still broadcasting on time every day. So, our monotonous lives gained a little bit of anticipation. We'd turn on the TV on time and watch the news. Today's news was slightly different. The gray-haired, dejected old man on TV was the mayor of this city. He said gloomily, "Fellow survivors in front of your televisions, I sadly inform you all that our city has fallen completely. We are now helpless and can only abandon our city. Survivors, please gather at the Grand Cathedral in the west of the city. The city committee will dispatch special police from City D to take you to a safe zone." I said with emotion, "In this situation now, there are still humans working." Yen Yi said, "Miss, humans are actually very strong." 2 years passed, and almost all the steaks I had stocked up were eaten. The human world collapsed, and I had nowhere to buy beef anymore. After a sigh, I noticed that panic appeared in Yen Yi's eyes for the first time. I walked over and comforted him, saying, "Don't worry, there are still chickens and ducks in the ecological zone. Enough for you to supplement your nutrition." He quickly regained his composure, remained silent for a moment, turned back to get his gear, and said to me, "Miss, I'm going out." He often went out, so I didn't think much of it and nodded. By 12 a.m., Yen Yi hadn't returned, and I started to realize this time seemed different. Sitting on the sofa, I rubbed my increasingly chubby orange cat and frowned uneasily. "Big Orange, the litter box attendant is gone." Big Orange meowed. I said, "I'd better go find him." Big Smart sniffed Yen Yi's scent vigorously in front. Big Orange was on my shoulder. I walked on red high heels across this almost desolate land. There were disgusting little zombies everywhere, and they didn't dare to approach me. Suddenly, Big Smart smelled something and barked at me nervously. I quickened my pace and caught up with Big Smart. When I rescued Yen Yi, he had been shot. I know a little bit of medical knowledge. Dug out the bullet for him, injected antibiotics, and bandaged him up. Another day and night passed before Yen Yi finally woke up. After he woke up, he first felt relieved, then panicked, and checked himself from head to toe. I looked at him and said, "You've been living with me for so long that zombies don't dare to hurt you. Your injuries were inflicted by humans." "I know, Yen Yi suddenly said nervously. I suddenly felt like I understood what he meant. There was a thin veil between us that hadn't been broken. But I thought, after so long, Yen Yi must have guessed my identity. He probably thought I had turned him into a zombie using the zombie virus. I felt a pang of discomfort. I stood up, my voice gradually turning cold. Don't overthink it. I saved you back using scientific methods. Yen Yi was taken aback. Miss, I didn't mean it like that. I don't want to listen to so-called human explanations. Yen Yi got up and put the steak he brought from his backpack into the refrigerator. I glanced at the steak, and for the first time in my zombie life, I had no desire to eat it. I lazily played Switch in the living room, as if nothing had happened before. After Yen Yi finished cleaning, he pushed the pan, fried steak in front of me. Miss, I put down the Switch and looked up at him, still with bandages on. He was about to speak, but at that moment, with a bang, the lights in the entire house went out. I didn't expect my household electrical equipment to be so bad. In the darkness, Yen Yi and I looked at each other, and then Yen Yi seemed very helpless. Miss, I'll go fix it. I sat on the sofa and watched Yen Yi run around inside and out. Finally, after he connected to the wind power generation equipment, the house was bright again. Wiping his sweat, he said to me, Miss, we're out of fuel. I nodded. Yen Yi said, I'll go look for it. I nodded again. I saw Yen Yi seem to want to say something more, but perhaps because he was interrupted repeatedly, he finally didn't say it. Another 3 years passed. Humanity's situation finally saw some improvement. During these 5 years, the toxicity of the zombie virus became lower and lower. Until now, the zombie virus has almost completely disappeared. Many humans perished in this disaster, and some survived by banding together in safe zones. I observed the land. The soil decomposed the zombie toxins on its own, becoming fertilizer. The leaves absorbed the zombie toxins in the air, converting them into oxygen. The vegetation and soil filtered everything, restoring the earth to its healthiest state. Yen Yi also grew up, turning 25. The world was safe. Looking at the lush vegetation in the yard, I said to Yen Yi, it's time for you to leave. Yen Yi's eyes suddenly widened. I had never seen a person's eyes reveal so many emotions. At the very end, Yen Yi gave me a dry smile. Miss, thank you for taking care of me for these 5 years. I gave him De Tsongming's leash, and watched him and De Tsongming stand there for a while as if reluctant, and finally disappear from my sight. Even now, the words he wanted to say that day still haven't been spoken. Oh well, my years are long. These are just a piece of scenery on my life's path. Extra. Yen Yi, did you get the samples? I drew the serum and gave it to the scientists hidden in City B. Not long ago, I successfully entered that big courtyard and saw the most beautiful girl. That dazzling touch of red was the most beautiful sunset. Unforgettable for a lifetime. Thanks to AOAO, I successfully stayed in this courtyard. This courtyard is not the same world as outside. Inside the courtyard is a warm home, but outside is a cold hell. I knew from the beginning that Sang Sang was a zombie king, but to my surprise, Sang Sang's home was warmer, cleaner, and more tasteful than I imagined. She is different from the Walking Dead outside, different from what we thought before. She is full of curiosity and reverence for life. She treats her cat like family. She is very interesting. She can wear a rare brand outfit and squat in the ecological circle watching potatoes sprout. She can eat her favorite steak day after day, as if she never gets tired of it. Every time I went out, I brought all sorts of zombie serums back to the base, but I never brought hers. Zombies are created by the Zombie King. We need the Zombie King's serum. Only by getting her serum can we overcome this disaster. I replied to these people with a chill. If you've got the guts, go yourselves. Yen Yi, we sacrificed an entire squad to gain her trust and place you by her side. Now only you can get close to her. Don't be unreasonable. I turned and left coldly. How could I let her know that even our first meeting was a human scheme? Finally, my passive resistance made the base lose patience. The base planned to arrange a squad to return with me to my home with Sang Sang. I was very anxious, and even more anxious because the steak at home was finished, and I wouldn't be able to see her happy expression when she ate steak. I remember there was a cattle pen in the safety zone of City D, and our base had also applied for a batch of fresh steaks when applying for supplies. I think I need to get my hands on this batch of steaks. I returned to the base and packed all the steaks I could carry into my backpack. As soon as I finished packing, the squad arranged by the base to intercept Sang Sang met up with me, sitting in the car back, listening to their plan to deal with Sang Sang. I couldn't help but recall Sang Sang walking elegantly, in the ecological circle with lipstick and nail polish on. My mood was indescribably complex, pain and warmth intertwined. If you ask me, this zombie king is really good looking, said a member of the squad. Captain Yen, just tell us, did you fall for that zombie king? She's so good looking. No wonder you couldn't control yourself. Once we get the serum, the brothers will take turns enjoying her. Ha 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 ha. Harsh laughter echoed in my ears. For a moment, I almost lost my mind. When I came to my senses, they had turned into zombies, and I had several holes in me. The blood flowed more and more. My body grew colder and colder. My legs went weak, and I fell to the ground. My head ached, and I gritted my teeth in discomfort. I want to go home. I haven't brought the steak home yet. When I woke up, my vision was familiar, clean, and bright. The moment I saw Sang Sang, my heart skipped a beat. I'm still alive. I thought I wouldn't survive. I immediately got up to check my body. However, at this moment, Sang Sang's expression gradually turned cold and distant. Zombies are dirty, ugly, low-class creatures. I sensitively perceived the coldness in her tone, and I suddenly understood what she meant. No, I'm not. I know she's the zombie king, but I also know she wouldn't create zombies. I wasn't questioning her. But at this moment, I suddenly remembered my purpose in approaching her. I don't know how to explain. Facing the pure Sang Sang, I suddenly felt inferior. The next morning, I saw a small bottle of zombie plasma by my bedside. She didn't say anything, but I knew she brought it. I took the plasma to the base, said nothing, and turned to leave the base. This was the last time I delivered plasma to the base. After this, I never went back to that place. Human research had a breakthrough, and the zombie virus was also gradually weakening. The toxins in the air and environment seemed to be gradually diluting, and the forest was gradually regaining its vitality. Turns out, besides humans, there were also some animals that survived. Life was recovering, but I felt more and more uneasy. Finally, on the day the city was safe enough, Sang Sang suddenly said to me, "Yenny, you should leave." Actually, I didn't want to leave. She was noble yet lonely, and she didn't understand what human love was. She didn't understand that I liked her. I endured the pain in my heart, stood straight, looked at her intently, and smiled faintly as usual. "Miss, thank you for taking care of me for these 5 years.